All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the TMLS 2024. My name is Mark Donaldson. I'm the founder and CEO of Quantuity Analytics, where we have a patent-pending solution on an edge IoT smart sensor for the commercial trucking industry. So we help ensure brake safety and monitoring for commercial vehicles. Our next speaker is Patrick Tammer, Senior Investment Director at Scale AI. Patrick Tammer is a Senior Investment and Policy Advisor to the Canadian government at Scale AI, Canada's global AI innovation cluster. He currently manages a $125 million portfolio of AI industry innovation projects. He's also an AI researcher at the Harvard Kennedy School. Prior to his current role, he spent 4 years as a strategy consultant with BCG. Patrick, welcome.
Awesome. Can you hear me good? Is the mic working? Awesome. Can we put it up here as well? Or do we keep the hike up to make sure everyone is signing up for the hike? Perfect. Awesome. Well, I am very excited to be here at the Toronto Machine Learning Summit 2024. Thanks a lot for joining my talk. I heard a lot of very practical and technical conversations so far, which are all great, including the Signal one just before. Signal one was actually one of the companies we are also working with that we supported. This one is going to be a bit different. It's more for business leaders, decision makers that are looking to accelerate AI in their organizations. So if you're looking for a lot of formulas, etc. on the slides, then you're wrong. This is not the talk for that, just to manage expectations. Quickly about myself, introduction was already done. So I've been working in the AI analytics space for the last about 8 years. Currently an investment director, senior investment director at Scale AI, where we work with AI startups, Canadian AI startups, and more traditional industry firms, trying to bring them together and advance AI in Canada. This is really our main mandate. Before that, I was a management consultant with the Boston Consulting Group, where I focused mostly on advanced analytics projects. So there are 3 things that I want to talk about today. We at Scale AI have invested in more than 100 AI projects over the last couple of years. So we have learned a thing or two how businesses can best leverage AI. So the first thing that I want to share with you is, from our experience, how can you build and improve your AI competency and capabilities in your organization? Second one, how to define a successful AI strategy. I think that a lot of organizations have realized by now that this is a valuable thing to do, but we still see a lot of companies struggling with that to really figure out how can we develop a long-term plan to make AI work in our organization. And the last thing is more practical and goes into, okay, now you know what you want to do, and you want to get your hands dirty in actually implementing AI in your organization. You might have a great team of data scientists ready to go. How do you successfully implement it? How do you make sure to use best practices to make AI initiatives really successful and secure buy-in from your top level for the future as well? Before getting into the serious content, I wanted to start on a funny note. Problem for me is I'm German originally, and my wife keeps on telling me my jokes are terrible. So luckily, that's not a problem anymore nowadays. I just went to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT, okay, give me 3 opening lines, 3 funny opening lines I can use for my talk. Here's what I got. The first one was, they say AI can replace humans in many jobs. Luckily, giving this presentation isn't one of them yet. Okay, a bit predictable, but not bad as a starting point. The second one was, as someone who is invested in over 100 AI projects, I can tell you this. AI is a lot like teenagers. It can be unpredictable, but when it works, it's brilliant. Okay. A little more witty, I like it, but I think my favorite was the third one. If AI were a superhero, it would be a bit like Batman. Impressive gadgets, a bit mysterious, and occasionally needs a good butler to keep it running smoothly. I think that's actually a great summary from my experience. That it's the nail on the head. You can let me know after which one you like best, and I'll use that going forward. So coming back to the serious content, I want to say a few words about some recent research that we have done at Scale AI, just to give you some context of where I'm coming from with this presentation here. We at Scale, over the last couple of years, have looked very closely at where AI in Canada is currently at, especially compared to other countries. As you can imagine, it's a key priority for the government to make sure that Canada doesn't fall behind on AI. We have a lot of great assets, but we also have some pretty significant problems here. But there are three key messages that we found in our research. And what we did is we kind of broke down the AI innovation ecosystem in Canada into three phases. The first one is research and development. So this is mostly about R&D centers, corporate R&D centers in academia that are generating knowledge and expertise in AI. The key message here is, and I'm sure most of you will probably notice if you work in the space, Canada has been a leader in AI research and development for decades. A lot of the advancements that are now being used in AI have come either directly from Canada or have been co-developed in Canada, all the way from neural networks to transformer architecture. A lot of important contributions from Canadian researchers and universities. So we really don't have to hide. We're definitely punching above our weight when it comes to R&D. The second one is what we call early adoption, which is really about startups and spin-offs taking those advancements, those newer shiny things like Gen AI, for instance, and building products and services around that. This here is where the story gets a bit less favorable for Canada. On the one hand, what we're seeing over the last 10 years is that the birth rate, so the number of new startups being created in Canada, has really gone up a lot. So that's very positive news compared to other countries like the US and Israel that have been traditionally strong in that area. We're seeing more and more AI startups being founded in Canada. The main problem is for a lot of the startups that we're talking to, finding customers here in Canada, especially at the early stage. That is still a key challenge. And as a result of that, many of them either don't make it to the scaling stage or they go south or to other more attractive markets where businesses are more open to pilot with them. And then the last phase is what we call scale-up. And that's really where we see the biggest challenge for Canada. So scale-up kind of goes one step further. If you think about big organizations, like we're in an RBC building right now, think about RBC. What we mean by scale-up is large organizations taking AI and really scaling it across their full organization to drive productivity and become AI-enabled or AI-first companies. And ideally using products and services from Canadian AI firms to do that. This is right now the biggest challenge for Canada. Frankly, the industry adoption, if you look at numbers for Canadian firms compared to the US and other countries, we're trailing behind. And that's really where Scale AI is focused, trying to help more traditional companies to leverage the benefits of AI. But you might ask now, okay, where does that leave us compared to other countries? Is it really so bad, if we look at other countries? So fortunately, we did that by plotting some of the other countries on a matrix that you can see here. It's simplified in a way, but if you look at the y-axis, what we put there is what we call the supply side of AI. So this goes back to R&D and startups offering expertise, products, services that can be used by industry firms. And then on the x-axis, what you see here is the demand side. So really industry adoption across industries, companies leveraging AI. Doesn't come as a surprise, probably from what I just said before. We see currently Canada firmly positioned in the top left corner as an R&D powerhouse. And you might say now, okay, that's not that bad, could be worse. We could be in the AI laggard bucket, kind of second winner. We're kind of used to that in Canada, I guess. But the problem is we think that Canada is currently at a critical juncture. There are two pathways from here for AI in Canada over the next 10, 20 years. There is the worst outcome. If we don't manage to grow industry demand for AI in Canada, what we believe will happen is a lot of the great talent that we currently have here will move south or to other markets. And a lot of the startups that we have, again, will either be acquired or they won't make it through the scaling phase. And a lot of the IP that they are creating will end up south of the border and not benefit the wealth of our Canadian economy. That's the worst outcome. Hopefully we don't get there. There is a second path, a second alternative, we think. If we do manage to improve industry adoption. So if we can have more Canadian firms in manufacturing, in retail, in finance, really leverage AI and using products from Canadian firms, there is a pathway to really become an AI-fueled economy. And ideally, that will create a virtuous cycle, the way how we see it in Israel, for instance, or in the US as well, where that industry demand really accelerates and helps us to retain talent and startups here in Canada. That is really what we are focused at Scale AI. That's why we're working with industry firms and trying to bring them together with Canadian AI startups to improve that performance on industry adoption. So after giving you a bit of context where we see AI in Canada currently, I want to go into the three key takeaways that I hope you will take away from my presentation. First one is around how to build an AI competency in your organization. Then I talk a bit about AI strategy and then how to implement AI successfully. Firstly, when we start working with companies, so a recent example, to give you a recent example, we had a logistics company from Quebec. They have been working, their business model hasn't really changed over the last 20, 30 years. They have realized now, their CEO, I think, went to a couple of international conferences where everyone was talking about AI. So they realized, okay, this is something we have to get on, but we don't really know how. That's a typical example of what we call a company that's currently in the exploration phase. So they really need to develop an initial understanding first of how AI can help in their industry. And the second phase from there is, once you've done that, going out and identifying specific pilots, use cases that can tackle specific business problems that you have and start getting your hands dirty. And then the last phase is what we call scaling. So this goes back to elevating use cases across your organization, kind of reaching the top level of maturity. This is where we want to get most companies to that we are working with. So let's go a bit deeper into some more details behind this to give you a better understanding of what we mean by that. Exploration phase, I just mentioned it. I'm just coming back to the logistics company that we worked with. They realized the first thing that we need to do is educate key stakeholders in our organization about AI. And from our experience, the best way how to do this is through customized training programs. So working together with, this could be either internally, but often also with external partners, and re-educating the key decision makers on what AI can do in your industry. And the second piece is defining your AI strategy, which I will talk about in the next part of my presentation. And when it comes to the organizational structure, I think that's an important piece to think about as well for each of these phases, because that differs depending on where you are in your current journey. In the exploration phase, what we would recommend typically is, frankly, the starting point, identify one AI champion in your organization to take the lead on it. This could be your chief data officer, your chief information officer. That's typically sufficient for a smaller organization. We see a lot of companies now going out and defining chief AI officer roles as well. I think that can make sense if the scope is big enough for such a position. But again, for smaller, medium-sized organizations, oftentimes in the beginning, AI can be attached to the mandate of one of your C-level players, and that's probably good enough as a starting point. I give you one quick example. One company that we work with, Ericsson Canada. Ericsson you might be familiar with. They provide communication technology. In 2019, we started working with them. They wanted to invest heavily in AI in Canada, but their problem is they realized, okay, we don't really have a lot of talent in our organization that really understands AI. So we brought them together with AGC Montréal, the executive education team there, and developed a very customized training program for their needs. There were two parts to it. On the one hand, we worked with their management team to help them understand what are the use cases, what are other companies doing in your space. And the second part was more on the technical side. They didn't really have a data science team internally yet, So in the beginning, we helped to upskill some of their software engineers and some of those resources on machine learning and AI skills before they were able to hire a full-on data science team. And we were actually able to cover some of the costs as well. So if you're an organization and you're interested, or you're trying to work with an organization that is trying to invest in customized training programs, we can offer subsidies, grant funding to help Canadian firms to accelerate that journey. The second phase that I want to talk about quickly is piloting, because this is for companies that really have evolved beyond that initial phase of exploration. They do have a good understanding of what AI can do for them, and this is now really more about identifying pilot projects, which I will talk more about in the strategy piece as well, and investing in data infrastructure and governance, because as we all know, we have a lot of practitioners here in the room. Data is still oftentimes the main challenge, especially for more traditional industry firms. In terms of the organizational structure, what we see working best for companies in that phase is to have a small, centralized team with a mix of business and technical resources. Oftentimes, it requires working closely with ecosystem partners like AI vendors, AI startups, or academia, because you might not have all of the expertise and critical mass of talent in-house yet, and that's okay. To give you an example, Sanofi, they wanted to invest in Toronto to build an AI team here, but they didn't have an established team of AI experts in Canada. So for them, it was really more about piloting and trying to identify interesting Canadian startups to work with. One of them was Catalyze AI, which they worked with to improve their vaccine manufacturing process on a Toronto site. And we actually brought these two together. We supported Sanofi throughout their journey to identify the right partner, and then supported the project through the funding that we have available. So this is really a core part of our mandate. I know there are a lot of startups here at the summit. So if you're interested learning more how we can help you, bring you together with industry firms to help your journey to find customers, it's one of the key things that we do, and I would encourage you to have a conversation with me after. The last part that I want to talk about is the scaling phase. So again, organizations here are typically a lot more mature. I put examples of Pratt & Whitney and Unilever that we've worked with over several years. They didn't start there, of course. They started mostly in the exploration phase as well. But they've reached a level now where they're able to have a center of excellence in-house where they can develop use cases on a regular basis. That center of excellence typically acts like a hub and spoke model. So you would have a critical mass of AI talent at centralized level, but you would also have experts embedded in different business units that act kind of like a liaison to bring use cases to the central level. So if you're a large organization, and coming back to RBC, for example, of course, there are tons of different departments. There might be fraud detection department, there might be the loans department. So in order to have a center of excellence that really works well for the whole organization, that hub and spoke approach is really what we've seen working best. Having those liaisons in the business units that are the ear on the ground and bring the problems to the center, back to the center, and then it can be solved there to develop a product for the whole network. That is, I would say, the best case example of what we've seen so far. Unilever, just a quick example here. They did this with us throughout a couple, I would say it was like 2 to 3 years, the journey that we had with them. Again, they were initially interested to invest in some pilots with interesting Canadian firms. They worked with Laris Technologies and Theory and Practice, two Canadian AI providers, on demand forecasting as well as promo optimization. So those were like 2 successful pilot projects they had. And then from there, they went the next step and said, okay, this is working well. The ecosystem here is really strong. Now let's set up a center of excellence. They call it the Horizon 3 Lab that they announced recently. And the strength of the ecosystem here, access to startups, access to academia, was really one of the main reasons why they decided to do this here in Canada. Okay, so this was a bit more around how to develop an AI competency depending on where you are on the AI maturity curve. The second piece that I want to talk about is how to define an AI strategy. And frankly, it sounds fancy and complex. I have to say, from my experience, it's really not rocket science. For me, I have worked in strategy consulting before, and whether you call it AI strategy, it's not fundamentally different for business leaders than thinking about business strategy in general. The core objective is still, in this case, how can I use AI to build a sustainable competitive advantage for my organization? That should always be the North Star. And there are really three key elements when we advise C-level players across industries on how to start with their AI strategy. There are three elements that we typically talk about. First one is vision. Second one is AI roadmap. Third one is enablers. So let's start at the top. If we talk about vision, the first thing to think about is AI strategy starts at the C level, but it doesn't start in a vacuum. Typically, all organizations already have a business strategy in place and strategic objectives that they want to achieve. I'm coming back to the example of a logistics company that we worked with. If you think about what their business objective is, it might be we're seeing that our delivery times are subpar compared to our competitors, and we see that as a strategic goal to improve our delivery times to stay competitive and create a competitive advantage. So in that case, you should really think about how can AI contribute to this business objective of reducing delivery times. The second piece is your level of ambition. We see a lot of companies when they start thinking about AI the first time, they either are completely over-ambitious, what they want to do with AI, or they're not ambitious at all. Those are typically the two different types of C-level executives that we work with. They either say, oh, AI doesn't really affect my industry, so our job then is to try to convince them, yes, it will affect your industry as well. Or you have the other extreme, where you have an executive that says, okay, in 5 years, I want my full organization to be everything AI. We're going to be AI first, everything is going to be AI. I would say most of the time the truth is somewhere in the middle. It depends organization by organization, but the right level of ambition, deciding whether you're going to be an AI first company or an AI enabled company, that is important at the vision stage. What I mean by that is AI first, do you really see it in 5, 10 years down the road, most of your core products being driven by AI? If that's a yes, then you probably should invest in becoming an AI first company, but it doesn't have to be the case. For a logistics company, that might not be the case, and it's more around a lot of your business processes in the back end, using AI there, for instance, to make your business operations more efficient. The second piece is an AI roadmap. So this basically flows through from the vision. After you have defined that initial vision, it's about defining your use cases based on the business requirements that you've identified. We just talked about how reducing delivery times could be your primary business objective. So the use cases that probably would make sense are things like demand forecasting, network optimization, maybe predictive maintenance to reduce the downtime of your fleet. Those could be a sensible set of use cases to start with. And then the second piece is prioritizing them. And although AI initiatives, AI projects are still more uncertain than like more traditional software projects, we would strongly argue that you should go about it the same way as you do it with other projects and use metrics like ROI, payback periods, things like that, capital budgeting methods to prioritize your use cases. What you need to do that is a good impact framework, which I will talk about on the next page. And secondly, benchmarks. That's, I think, one big issue. A lot of companies don't have those benchmarks yet. At scale, we will publish a paper soon, a compendium of impact metrics for different use cases by industry. So if you think about demand forecasting in retail or demand forecasting in logistics. We'll try to, we'll have a good data set, we'll publish a data set, make it available to make it easier for whether it's startups working in that space or industry companies to help them use those benchmarks to better plan and quantify the value from their initiatives. The last one that I want to talk about is enablers. I'm going to go over that quickly because I'm running out of time. The first one is data infrastructure and governance. I'm not going to go into detail here. I think we're all familiar that this is still an impediment for many Canadian firms, whether it's legacy infrastructure or lack of data governance. Those are still problems where investment is needed for many companies. Talent and culture, as well as organizational structure. I think we just talked about that in the previous part, how to think about that depending on where you are on the AI journey. And the last one is partner ecosystem. I mentioned a couple of times, we are uniquely positioned in Canada here. The ecosystem is much stronger than, I know Europe, for instance, quite well. Coming from Germany, the number of startups, the number of academic institutions is really unparalleled here. Okay, I have 2 minutes left, so I'll go over this. It says 4 here, though, on the, so I will use the 4 if you don't mind. I'm going to go over this one quickly, and then I will wrap it up. But what have we learned? So as I mentioned, we have invested in we've supported and invested in over 100 AI initiatives over the last 5 years. So a lot of learnings from there. Some of those initiatives went really well, others not so much. But if I had to summarize what we've learned, first thing is pre-work is key. When we say pre-work, what we mean is 3 things. Identifying the business problem, the technical problem, and really doing a robust data assessment. Business problem, to give you an example, we just talked about how to reduce delivery times. So the business problem could be our delivery times right now are suboptimal because our forecasts are off half of the time. Our demand forecasts are off half the time. So that's the business problem. The technical problem is then, okay, we have a forecasting problem here. How can we think about using that with machine learning or AI? There are various different ways how to do that, but building an initial understanding, oftentimes it's better to start with an easy approach. You know, an autoregressive model might totally work fine for your industry if the demand patterns are not too complex. And the last piece is an initial robust data assessment before starting any data science or AI project. Again, I'm probably not telling you things that you don't know already on this one. Leverage the ecosystem. Again, come to me after to talk about this. I don't have enough time to tell you more about how great the ecosystem is in Canada, but please, let's have a conversation. If you're looking for partners, either at the corporate level or startup or academia, we are well positioned to help you find the right partner. Come talk to me. The one piece I want to just quickly talk about for like 20 seconds is the impact measurement framework. So this was one of the main learnings we had over the last 5 years. We have worked with a lot of companies that started pilots, and then those pilots didn't go anywhere. And the number one reason was there was no robust impact measurement framework to tell the story to the business leaders what was the result from this pilot. So now every project that we support, we ask them to do 3 things, 3 types of KPIs that we want to see. Technical KPIs, this is just how do I know that my model is actually successful and can create business value. So for demand forecasting model, it might be defining the right levels of mean squared error or other technical KPIs that tell me this model what do I need in terms of model performance to make a business impact. Second one is operational metrics. So sticking to the example here with demand forecasting, the operational metrics I might want to improve might be stockouts. I have 20% of stockouts right now. I want to bring that down to 10. Defining that target and measuring that, that's a key piece. And then the last one is financial KPIs. So I always want those operational metrics to have an impact on my top line or bottom line. So in this case, it might be how can I use lower stockouts might lead to fewer lost sales and fewer penalties, and as a result, better financial results. The last two I just mentioned quickly here. Responsible AI is a key one. I'm happy to chat more about how to do this in practice. And effective project management, again, this is by now, I would say, table stakes. It's not different from other projects, but this is where I will leave it. So with the last 40 seconds here on my screen, just to quickly summarize what we talked about. If you think back to my presentation in like 3, 6, 9 months, hopefully there are 3 things that you remember. For the details, you can just call me. For number 1, for companies, there is a proven path to build your AI competency internally to reduce risk and time to impact. Number 2, no matter where you play in the AI space, your organization should have an AI strategy, whether you're AI first or not, but it's really not rocket science, and Scale AI can help you with that work. And lastly, although AI projects are innovation projects and are inherently risky, there are best practices that you can follow to reduce execution risk and make sure your senior level will support AI in your organization.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Where I wanna start.
Thank you. Thank you.